This one testing ke?
Tak, dah start.
Okay.
Okay, tak apa. Terus je.
Okay.
Cut
So,
je.
tak berkat je. Okay. Betul. 2, 3. Okay, so hi and Assalamualaikum. So today we will be presenting the introduction and discussion of our study entitled A Constructive Analysis of Directive Speech Act in the Devil Wear Products. So next. Okay, so in this presentation, we will be present about the introduction, literature reviews, methodology, findings, discussion, conclusion, and last one we have reference. So let's get started with introduction first. Okay, so before we start, let me introduce myself. So my name is Muhammad Aiman bin Osman. So, so language is not only used to exchange information, but also to perform actions such as giving commands, making requests, providing instructions, and offering advice. So, these actions are known as speech act. So, our studies focus on the Directive Speech Act, which are interest intended to make someone perform a particular action. Example like include commands, instruction, request, suggestion, and also advice. So next slide. Next. Okay, so the reason that we choose this movie we choose The Devil Wears Prada because it provides many examples of directive speech acts in a professional workplace setting. So the movie take place at Runway magazine, where there is a clear hierarchy between the editor-in-chief, which is Marinda, and her assistant Andy and also Emily. So because of this power difference, we can observe and we can see that how the language change depending on the speaker's social status. For example, we have Marinda often give direct comments such as get me Isaac or pick up my shoes or she said call everybody else. So these three examples make the movie an excellent source for analysis on how directive speech act are used in workplace communication. So next slide. So these are our research objective and also research question. So the first RQ is that how comments and also instruction expressed differently in the Devil Wears Prada. And then the second one is how does social status influence directive speech act in the movie. So to answer this question, we have two objectives. First is that to identify the directive speech act structure used in the movie, and then the second one we have to examine how the social status influence the level of forcefulness and also politeness in those directive speech act. So next slide.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nofarwani Binti Amran. And for my part, I will explain the literature review and the theories, the few of the theories. Okay, first, basically, the literature review is review the theories and concept related to the research topic. Also, it explains the key concept used in the research. And as for our study, is grounded in three major theories that explain how directive speech acts are produced and interpreted in communication. First is speech act theory. Second is directive speech acts. And the third one is politeness theory. which these theories provide the foundation for analyzing commands, instruction, and the influence of social status in The Devil Wears Prada. Okay, next slide. Okay, our first theory is speech act theory. It's developed by John Langshaw Austin in 1962 and John Searle in 1969. Okay, basically, its language is used to perform actions, not only to convey information. As Shirley classified speech acts into five categories. One is assertives, two directives, three commissive, the fourth one is expressive, and the last one is declarations. These five serve as the main theoretical framework for identifying directive speech acts in the selected movie. Okay, the next slide. Okay, now we move to the directive speech acts, which are developed by Searle 1969. Okay, according to Searle, directive speech acts are utterance intended to make the hearer perform an action. There are five directive speech acts with commands, request, instruction, suggestion, and advice. The purpose is the influence of the hearer's behavior, and the second one is the achieve a desired action through language. The example of the directive speech acts is the same one like what Iman mentioned just now. Get me Isaac, pick up my shoes, and the last one is call everybody else. Call everybody else. These are the three example that strengthen the movie directive speech acts. Okay, and for the last one of my part, okay, next slide. The last one is politeness theory, which are developed by Penelope Brown and Stephen C. Levinson in 1987. There are politeness theory is where the speaker adjusts their language according to social relationships and based on their social status influences, which are first directness, second forcefulness, and the third one is politeness. Uh, Higher status speaker tend to use more direct directive, and the last one is lower status speakers often use more polite or indirect forms. And this theory supports our research question. We should investigate how social status influences forcefulness and politeness in directive speech acts. Okay, that's all for my part. Okay.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. My name is Zulhim bin Salihuddin, and I will be explaining on our methodology. So, for the research, we chose qualitative descriptive research because it shows pragmatic discourse analysis, suitable for examining the directed speech acts in the movie The Devil Wears Prada. For our research framework, we refer to John Shirley's speech act theory from 1979 to identify the directive speech acts such as commands, requests, instructions, and etc. So we also refer to Penelope Brown and, of course, Stephen C. Levinson, as mentioned by Vara, for the politeness theory of 1979 to examine the forcefulness and politeness strategies. So for the next slide, uh, so for our data collections, the data sources, of course, we use the movie itself of the Devil Wears Prada from 2006. It shows a workplace interaction between these four main characters: Miranda Priestley, Andy Sash, Emily Charlton, and of course Nigel. So how we sample, the technique of our sampling is, of course, we use purposive sampling according to selected scenes that contains the directive speech acts, dialogues, and scripts. So the next slide, the flow chart of our procedure is first we've got to watch the movie. We watch the movie to the beginning to the end, and then select the work scenes and try to we transcribe the dialogues, and we proceed to identify the directive speech acts that we found, and then we classify and we analyze the data that we gathered, and last but not least we must compare the social status, forcefulness, and the politeness that we found. So for my last part, for our data analysis, we have aspects, and of course the description of our aspects. So for the speaker, that he is who gives the directive. For the hearer is the one who receives the directive. So for the directive type, we have command, request, and instruction based on what we explained previously. In terms of sentence structure, we have the imperative, declarative, interrogative, and for the politeness strategy, we use based on Brown and Levison's theory. And of course, for the social status, superiority, so subordinate and equals. And that is all for me.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Before moving on to the presentation for my part, I will introduce myself, and my name is Kisina Prizana binti Syarul Rizal. So for the findings, we have quantitative distribution of directive types, direct versus indirect direct versus indirect directive speech acts, and also evolution of Andy's speech acts. So for the first one, we can see here quantitative distribution of the directive types. So the quantitative distribution of the speech is for us to see the difference of speech acts between Andrea, Andy, our main character, and also Miranda Priestley's type of speech. So based on the movie that we have dissect, we can see that Miranda's speech acts, they actually consist of more overwhelming dominated commands, meaning that she gives commands to Andrea, Nigel, and to all the other subordinates who are working under her. But meanwhile, for Andy, we can see that she is much more clueless and much more timid, like asking questions and hesitant, and is always apologetic, which is a very contrast difference because she doesn't have the strong uh, command as shown by Miranda. Meanwhile, for Nigel and Emily, they don't actually have as much as command to Miranda, but they do have a few dialogues that we can see from the movie that where they actually give orders to Andrea when she first started working there. So that they can introduce the way of them working and how does the workflow here starts. But it is not as strong and as dominant as Miranda's speech acts. So moving on to the next slide. So for the next one, we can see the table of quantitative distribution of directive X for Miranda Priestley. So the first one is commands. So the first command that that we can see here is so send her in. That's all. So she gives this command to Emily when she first saw Andrea to command to make her point to send her in so that she knows that Miranda is the one who is in charge in the office. And for the second one, get me home, this is where she urges Andrea to get her a flight or a jet despite the heavy weather where she cannot fly back home. But she urges Andrea, no matter what way, you have to get me home. So that is how she instills fear in her orders, and that is what makes Andrea relentlessly trying her best to get a flight for Miranda for her to get back home. And for the last one is I need the new Harry Potter books for the twins. So for this one, she wanted the unpublished manuscript of Harry Potter's book, and she commanded Andrea to do this, so that she can so that it shows that because I'm the boss, because I'm the leader here, I can ask you to do whatever I want, including asking you to find me a manuscript for a book that is not published yet. So for the next one is orders. Tell Simone I'm not going to approve the girl she sent me for the Brazilian layout. So commands and orders are actually two different things. So command is more of like a directive order that that they have to do like immediately, but orders is more like an instruction of how they are supposed to do stuff. So for this dialogue, she says to Emily that she does not approve of the Brazilian layout that was sent to her. And call James Holt office is that for this one, she orders that the meeting will be moved to 12:30 from the original time that they will have it. So for request, um, she doesn't actually have a lot of requests per se, because Miranda usually gives commands and orders. So that is why requests are only two here. So for requests, it is call Natalie at Glorious Foods. Tell her no for the 40th time. I don't want the qua. I want torts filled with warm rhubarb compote. So for this one, uh she actually said to Emily to tell Simone about her request of not wanting the qua, but she wanted torts with warm rhubarb compote for the 40th time for her food at the restaurant that she was going to have dinner later that night. And same for the previous scene where Get Me Home, I Need to Get Home Tonight, is she also requesting that that Andy needs to get her home so that she can be at her daughter's school for their recital. So for questions, uh Miranda often asks questions, especially to Andy when she first uh arrived at the office. So the first one is, who are you? Because she doesn't seem very fashionable, and it's not like the usual runway employees that work there. So when she was asking who are you, means that she wanted an introduction because she looks different from all the other girls who are working there. And what are you doing here is that she asked in a mocking tone, because she feels like Andy does not deserve to be there, because she doesn't seem as competent, and she is not as fashionable, and doesn't seem that she has much fashionable knowledge compared to others. And the last one is, so you don't read Runaway. This is when she says to Andy when she was introducing herself, because not once did she mention that she has worked for a fashion magazine before and anything. And she stated this because she wanted a confirmation that Andy has never read nor being involved with a fashion magazine before. So for advice, this is actually not much of an advice, but when Emily failed um, to confirm an appointment, Emily said sorry, and her response to Emily is that details of your incompetence do not interest me. So this is her way of saying that I do not want any excuses from you, because because when I want stuff to get it done, I need to get it done. So I do not want to hear about your incompetence. So for the next one, we have Andrea, Andy, the second main character. So for her commands is that Lily, no, put that thing up. I was gonna answer it. So this is when her friend snatched her phone away when Miranda was calling, because they were making fun of her, and she was mad, and that is why she yelled at her friend to not pick up Miranda's call. And for orders, for Orders, this is when she said to Christian, because he is in publishing, when Miranda asked for the unpublished manuscript for the Harry Potter book, she said, I need the new Harry Potter book, the unpublished manuscript. So please help me because you work in publishing. So that's what she said to Christian. So for the next one is request, also regarding to the sorry also regarding the Harry Potter manuscript. She was begging for his help after he said that it cannot be done, but she convinced that please, you must have someone from the inside in publishing that you know that can help me get the manuscript for Miranda. And for questions, since Andy is new to the work environment, working in fashion and everything, that is why this is why Andy has a lot more questions compared to the others. So so the first one is, oh, Emily, what do I do with this? Is when she asked Emily, when she said that she has to be manned at the desk at all times, and do not leave the desk even for a split second, because all phone calls need to be picked up and replied, because Miranda does not like missed phone calls. And the second one is, what kind of skirts do you need? This is actually when Andy asked Miranda about what type of skirts she needed, because Miranda did not specify which type of skirts, which leads more to Andy's confusion, which is why she asked what type of skirts Miranda wanted. So for the last one is when she was calling someone to help getting a jet or a flight out from Miami to New York for Miranda. And she said that, hi, I know this is totally last minute, but I was hoping that you could maybe get a flight for my boss from Miami to New York. She was asking for everyone uh, the same question, if anybody has a jet or a flight that can get her out from Miami to New York, but sadly no one can't because of the bad weather, so no one is flying out. So for the next one are the other two characters, which is Nigel. So Nigel doesn't actually have a lot of commands, just like I said previously. So but for orders, it's like it's you'll take what I give and you'll like it. This is when Nigel was helping Andy with her makeover, giving her new clothes and everything, and Andy was actually hesitant to receive it, and that is why he said, you will take what I give you and you will like it. So he also doesn't have any requests because he's actually working under Miranda, so he usually receives requests, not the one giving out requests. So for question, he said, who is that sad little person, when Andy walked out of Miranda's office, because like Miranda at first glance, Nigel is like she doesn't look too similar like the other girls who are working there at the Runway magazine company. So for advice, stand there, watch and listen. So this is when they have the first mix up about clothes that they have to discuss together, and Nigel actually advised to her that you just have to sit there, watch and listen and everything, and you don't have to say a thing. So for the last one is Emily. So for her commands is move. She commanded Emily to move when Miranda was asking for her to not keep Miranda waiting. And for orders is actually quite a lot, since she is Miranda's assistant. She gives out orders to Andy to do Miranda's chores and everything. So for the first one, she said she wants to see you. So this is when Miranda was calling to see Andy in her office. And for the second one is, you need to come into the office right this second and pick up her coffee right away. So this is when she called Andy when she was still at her house, because she needs to get into the office right right that second in the morning, because they always arrive at the office early in the morning, and she needs to do everything before Miranda arrives, so that everything is laid out there for Miranda when she's arrived and not having her waiting for a long time. So for the last one is advice. Request, not so much, because like I said just now, she's just like Nigel. She works under Miranda, so she doesn't have like a lot of requests also for questions. But for advice, she said, if I'm not here, Andrea, you are chained to that desk. So this is where she advised that you must not leave the desk and must be there to pick up all the calls whenever and not even missed a single call. So moving on to the next slide. um this is the direct versus the indirect speech for Miranda and Andy. So for Miranda here, like I said earlier, we can see from the table example, we can see that her commands and orders are actually filled with authority, and she actually doesn't use direct orders, and she also used bold imperatives. She used indirect directives, like the example, I need 10 or 15 skirts from Calvin Klein, but not specifying what types of skirts, what design, or what pattern it is, and she expects her subordinates or people who are working under her to decode her meaning. So that is how Miranda's speech X works. But for Andy, she actually failed to read Miranda's subtext and to decode her indirect directives at first, and she usually takes whatever Miranda is saying directly. But that is not when until she learns the ability to decode Miranda directs indirective and also speaking the same way as her sooner or later, halfway through the movie. So for the last part is evolution of Andy's speech X. So like I said previously, Andy, at first when she worked there, she was not confident. She was also timid and shy. When speaking, and she asked a lot of questions and not being able to decode whatever Miranda was saying. But after a few months, and after have and after having to work with Miranda, she finally gets to pick up the pace and finally gets to speak the way Miranda speaks, and finally being able to decode whatever she is saying. And other than that, she also managed to voice up for herself and speak her opinions, compared to the first when the movie started, where she was unsure of herself and did not know what to say and how to contribute. So that is all from me. I will pass on to the next person.
Okay, so let's get into the discussion. So based on our analysis, we found that commands and instructions are expressed in two main ways, which is direct directive and also indirect directive. So what is a direct directive? So direct directive are short, clear, and also straightforward. So they usually use interpretive sentences and are commonly spoken by people with higher authority, like Marinda. So, for example, Marinda says, "Get me Isaac," and also pick up my shoes. So these comments are very direct and also expect immediate action without any negotiation. So, on the other hand, indirect directive are more polite and less forceful. So for the characters such as Andy, she often use expressive like "could you" or "I was hoping that you could." So this expression shows that respect toward the listener and also reduce the level of forcefulness. So next slide. So our finding also show that social status play an important role in determining how the directive speech act are used. So Marinda, as the editor in chief, has more authority and also highest authority in the company. Because of her position, she frequently used directive commands without any politeness markers such as please. So she expect her assistant to follow her instruction immediately without any negotiation. So in contrast, for Andy and also Emily, usually communicate more politely, especially when speaking to people with higher authority or external client. So they often use indirect requests because of they need to maintain the professionalism and also show respect to the higher person, to the um higher people lah. And so this demonstrates that the higher a person's social status, the more direct and forceful their directive tend to be. So while lower status speakers generally prefer more polite indirect expression. So next slide. So we have come to our conclusion. So in conclusion, our study found that The Devil Wears Prada contained many examples of directive speech acts. The movie shows that commas and also instructions vary depending on the speaker's role and also authority. So overall, social status are strongly influence the level of directness, forcefulness, and also politeness in the workplace communication. So I think that is all from us. And also, next slide. So this is the reference we use for our presentation. So next slide. Um, okay, so yeah, I think that's all from us. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Dah stop record ke tak?